Hi, my name's Lewis and I'm the Senior Sous Chef at Southampton University. Today we're going to be cooking a pork stir fry with honey, ginger and soy. For this dish we're going to need egg noodles, a pork chop or a pork tenderloin, ginger, garlic, a green pepper, mange tout, and then cornflour, soy, honey, and obviously equipment would be a wok and a pan of water. And that's all you need. Follow along with us and hope you enjoy. So we're going to start off with a pepper. There's a lot of different ways to prep it, especially in the kitchen. Best way is just to cut all four sides and then cut the bottom off. Obviously, a lot of this is then wastage, so that can all go into the little wastage basket. And obviously, as I started off with, you just sort of want to make sure you've curled your fingers over. So we're just going to slice the pepper into nice little thin slices. Obviously, take your time, be cautious, and just make sure your fingers are nicely out of the way. When that's all done, we're just going to transfer it all onto these boards. So we have all of our veg there. Then we've got ginger and a bit of garlic. There's lots of different ways to peel ginger. You could use a peeler. The best way I like to do it is just to grab a spoon, and you can literally just use the spoon and just scrape the skin straight off. It sort of saves a bit of wastage because you're not then obviously peeling it and losing all that ginger as you're peeling it, like so. And then we're literally just going to slice this into nice little thin slices and then work the opposite way so it's nice and finely cut. Ginger being quite spicy, it's sort of quite nice to get it quite fine. And then when it's all nice little batons, we're just going to work the opposite way and just do a nice little dice. Obviously, it doesn't matter if it is slightly chunkier or it's a little bit all mix and match. It's just trying to get a nice little medium dice so you're not getting big chunks of ginger when you're having your stir fry. Garlic's quite a nice easy one. You can do it a lot of different ways. You can either just nicely thin slice it and put it through your stir fry or put it through a dressing or something like that. Best way I like to do is just put your knife on it and press it. So it's already basically broken up slightly then, and then you can just basically run your knife through it, and you've then already got like your nice rough dice without having to cut it 5 times. Obviously, if you're not happy with it, you can then obviously run your knife through it again to sort of get it to a nice fine. Obviously, when you're doing this, take your time. Mange tout, you can cut down if you want. Everyone's different. I'm not going to prepare this because the recipe doesn't say it to. So I'm just going to go into the stir fry like this so that can go straight onto the board. So with the mange tout, you can do a couple other little things. You can just cut it straight down the middle, or you can just bunch them all up and just run your knife through it so it's nice little slices, like so. So you've got a nice little dice. It's a good little trick when you're at home. So if you cut like raw garlic and stuff, the smell will stay on your hands a lot longer. If you always wash your hands with cold water first, it will remove the smell without cooking it onto your hands. And then obviously wash your hands normally with hot water. It's good practice to have 2 boards and use one for raw meat and one for vegetables. Or if you're prepping it, you've only got 1 board. To prep all your veg first, flip your board over, and then prep your raw meat afterwards. And just make sure when you clean your board, make sure it's nice and sanitary for when you use it again. You've got your sinews. You get this on chicken and a lot of other things. On chicken as well, it's quite easy just to cook and render down and it won't be as chewy, but stuff like pork tenderloin, you've got the sinew that's all down the side. Best way of doing it is just to put the tip of your knife underneath it and just slide it off, vice versa, but we'll go through it all and we'll sort that out. Or if not, if you don't feel comfortable doing that, if you just lay it on the side, you can just run your knife and just slowly trim away at the sinew. We obviously don't want to remove all of it because obviously it'll be wasting quite a little bit. But if you remove about 80% of it, it's quite a good practice because it will just make it nicer to eat. Obviously, it's quite a nice chunk of meat, so we want to try and get it as thin as possible, doing a stir fry so it cooks nice and quickly. You're not trying to cook it. So the best way to do it, if we just cut it into nice little strips And then we'll work sort of like the garlic and ginger. We'll slice it and then go back the other way. So when you get to the end, don't try and like cut because you're more likely going to slip. You can either cut like that, or best way to do it is just to cut this into nice little strips as well, so you're not going to slip and cut yourself. I'd always go quite thin with stuff like a stir fry because you won't just sort of cook quite quickly and not have to cook it down for a long time. So you want to go quite thin with this because you want to cut it, obviously, because you want it to cook really quickly. So the thinner the better, realistically. So now we're going to go on to, obviously, this is your ingredients. We've got sesame seeds. We've got a bit of honey, a bit of soy. They're all the three at the bottom. We've then got a little bit of veg oil, corn flour, and water. So if you'll read our recipe, we've got to basically combine the water with the corn flour and stir together. For now, I'll just go through it all. We can then go through it afterwards and stuff like that. With corn flour, it's very good to like thicken something. If you're using it at home, you could thicken a soup or a sauce or whatever you want. It's quite a good diverse thing to use. Obviously, it thickens anything, obviously, when it boils. But you always want to make sure you dissolve it in like a little bit of liquid. If it's either soy sauce or water, just because otherwise it clumps together when you add it into food. So once that's all dissolved, we'll add that to the soy sauce. We'll just give that a nice little mix. And then we'll just add the honey into that. So it's all that nice little sauce at the end we can add into our stir fry. Just stack your little containers up. We can wash them all at the end. It's nice and hot. We're going to go in with our oil. Just so your pork doesn't stick. And just make sure you get that round the bottom of the bowl. And then we're just going to get the pork straight in. And you just basically want to try and spread it out because you sort of want to get that crust on the pork and cook it. This is why we obviously cut it nice and thin. So you're not then worried about is it cooked in the middle. Once you can tell it's cooked, it's basically cooked all the way through. The trick is you don't want to stir it too much. You want that nice sort of golden colour. It is very tempting to sit there and just stir back and forth. You won't get that. It's a good saying, like colour is flavour. When you cook it, it's going to give you that nice sort of edamame sort of flavour to it. Going to go in with our ginger and garlic and vegetables. I'm just going to cook these all off. See, when this is cooking, I'm now going to add my egg noodles. These usually take around 5 minutes. Obviously, it's always good to check, but it's always good to sort of get this because you can always turn this heat down a little bit and wait for them to finish and add them to your stir fry. Or you could even finish your noodles, put them in the bottom of the bowl if you wanted, and then put your stir fry over the top. We're just going to turn this down a little bit now while we wait for them to cook. Good thing about like mangetout and stuff is it all cooks like very quickly in a pan. Well, so when you're at home, a lot of the egg noodle packets will say just drop into hot water for maybe 3 or 4 minutes, or even some of the rice noodles just say pour boiling water over them and just leave them for a couple of minutes. Obviously, it's always good just practice. Just look at the packets. A lot of them have cooking instructions on. When these noodles are done, we're going to strain these off into a colander. Obviously, at home, you can just put your colander in the sink and pour it down. Obviously, for this purpose, I'm going to use a spider and just take the noodles out because obviously then we can just reuse the water in the pans. I'm just going to go straight into the stir fry with the nice little soy. Obviously, with the corn flour, if you don't stir it that much, it's always going to slowly stink back to the bottom. The reason we add corn flour to this, obviously, is when you cook all your vegetables, they're going to release a lot of water and stuff like that. So you add the corn flour to obviously just thicken all the sauce at the end. It's very hard to stir your noodles into all your veg. So if you're happy enough, you can just put this straight in the bowl first. And then that is your nice pork stir fry. The sesame is literally just to finish. Obviously the sesame seeds we haven't got to cook, so we can just sprinkle them all over. I hope you enjoyed following along. We've got a lot more recipes and dishes coming up, so follow along. I hope you enjoy.